call the meeting of the M.S.A.D 49 Board of School Directors to order. Roll call, please.
Here.
Boyden,
Here.
Baggerly,
Here.
Leslie, Mott, Lajoie,
Here.
Fox,
Here.
Kogelmeyer,
Here.
Liberty, Martin,
Here.
Michoud,
Here.
Mickey,
Here.
Total Warren,
Here.
students.
Thank you. Before we do the pledge, I'm going to ask Mr. Fields to announce our special guest tonight, and that's going to play our national anthem, but he's going to play it directly after we do the pledge. So,
Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, I'm Lord Fields. I have the pleasure and honor of being your band director, grade 7 through 12 here at the facility. I first found this young man at a Mr. Hogan band concert, and I heard word that he was a great trumpeter, and so be it. Now, his story, ladies and gentlemen, is one of spectacular overcoming and defeating negativity. I don't know many adults who've been through what this young man has been through. Those who follow Mom's Stay Strong Nathaniel on Facebook, you know, she's been very good about posting appropriately what's going on. Without minimizing his many overcoming actions, he has faced death in the face different times, started from zero and come back each single time. In fact, he was afflicted with his medical condition so badly, he could not audition last year for KB or Allstate, which he had made before. And he fought through and came through on the other side victorious, didn't quit. He has a heart. He's probably, what, 5'8", 5'9", Nathaniel?
5'7".
5'7". This, in my mind, ladies and gentlemen, this young man is a 15-foot warrior and doesn't stop, and is a tremendous ambassador, not only for SAD 49 and the students that we have in our group, in our school here. He's also an ambassador of hope to all of us. And I'm not being over-dramatic, I'm being dead serious. And some of you are nodding because you know what has happened. So, you are a phenomenon, man, and you're a blessing to all of us. We're so proud of you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to shut up because you're going to unleash these gorgeous dulcet tones and dazzle all of us with a song that is so important and precious to many of us.
Thank you very much.
Daniel Dash.
Nathaniel, we're going to do the pledge first, and then we'll have you go right into the national anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nathaniel, you played for the Board of Education meeting last week, and I heard you did a wonderful job, and when the superintendent mentioned it to me that he'd like to have you come in tonight, I thought it was a great idea. Before you go anywhere, we're going to kind of skip a little bit on the agenda. The superintendent's got a little bit of some business he'd like to take care of. If you'd like to just hold on for a sec.
Yeah, as you know, I have Student of the Month award to students that I have really been inspiring to our district and set an example. And Nathaniel, you are the Student of the Month.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you. This is also a pen.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you.
This is the certificate, so. All right?
All right, thank you very much.
Well,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Can you get a picture of you and Mr. Dr. Newsom? Thank you so much. Very nice.
Now, we have one more presentation we want to do at the beginning of the meeting here tonight. This is the last meeting for one of our board members. Terry has been with us for 5 years, and this is his last meeting. He's going to be missed very much. Terry and I haven't always gotten along as far as in our policy or our I guess our life philosophy, but I will tell you, Terry's been an asset to the board, and I am certainly going to miss him, and even when he gives me a hard time. So Terry, I want to thank you very much. We actually have something for you, and Dr. Naaman has something for you too.
Of course. I want to thank Terry for serving and knowing Terry. This is the certificate. And also I got you a nice pen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good job.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And here's your bell.
Oh,
So,
wow. Thank you.
so we want to thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I didn't expect all this.
We know.
For those of you who don't know, I've had heart trouble, and I'm going to have aortic valve replacement in January. And my hope is that, given a few months of rehab and getting stronger, I can run again and be back here. That's certainly what I'd like to do. And this has been a real honor, serving you, real honor. And thank you all very much.
Yep, thank you.
Now we will move on to the agenda.
I might just run against you.
That's okay. There's always 2 seats up in Fairfield every year, Terry.
You're next.
Nope, I'm not. I got a couple more years.
No, I'm talking about legislature.
Oh, okay. All right, so, moving on. You haven't even given me a chance to do anything yet. All right. All right, approval of minutes. Vote to accept the minutes for the November 15, 2018 board meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Tim, seconded by,
I'll second it.
oh, no, Neil. Discussion.
I actually wasn't present,
Okay,
so if they could just, yeah, because I'm like, yes, I was not
Okay.
there. I was not there.
so we will correct the record.
Maybe maybe my presence was actually here, but I physically wasn't
Why
there.
did you
Because it was in the minutes and she
In the
wants to make
minutes, I was
sure.
present.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Opposed? Abstain. 901. Citizens input. This is the time in the meeting where if there are any citizens present that have anything they'd like to say to the board, this is the time to do so. Okay, this is also where I make a few announcements. I'm going to just remind everybody to continue to save box tops for education. They may be small, but they are 10 cents a piece and they do add up. I also want to remind everybody that we have our clothes closets in our schools. The 7 through 12 is the one here, and I know that our elementary schools also collect some things for students in need. I do want to say that I found out today the clothes closet has been doing quite well here. We have had donations coming in regularly. Mrs. Thomas told me that today, that that's been doing really well, so that's nice to know. I also want to announce we had I was actually in today to the high school and spoke to Mrs. Thomas, and the Christmas for Teens program has been a real godsend in this community. And I will tell you, she informed me today that we actually served 80 students between 7 through 12 this year. And that's a lot of students when you stop and think about what that has done. But I will tell you, it certainly makes a nice Christmas. And I happen to be on the all-staff email, and the one thing I want to say is there was an email that went out a couple of days ago for a call for a guitar. And then almost immediately, it felt like it was immediately, other emails were popping up. I know where I can find one, donated one, people donated the strings, a couple of people, they said they can tune it, they can restring it. It was, to me, that was just shows what this community can do. This community is amazing when there's a call out for something, and we've shown that with Tim working on the Thanksgiving last month and the Christmas for Teens, and I know that the different schools also do their tags. So I want to say I'm very proud of this community. We don't always necessarily get the recognition for what we do in this town. It's not that we need it, but it's nice to know that so many of our people will step up, and I'm very proud of that. Channel 5 News was at the high school today. I actually saw it before I came here. They did a report on the JMG blankets that are being delivered, and when he was in the office, I kind of cornered him and told him about the Christmases for Teens program, and he asked to interview Mrs. Thomas, and I encouraged her to do the interview on that as to what it's about, to support the community. And I think that's one thing that we can say, is that we have a pretty amazing community. So in that respect, we have one other thing that's nice to announce. We received a $10,000 donation from Dollar General for Clinton Elementary, to be used for literacy and computer program, whatever we need for that. So that's a pretty amazing donation as well that came in. So a lot of good things have happened over the last couple weeks, and I want to say that we have a lot of good things to say about this community. So I'm very proud of us, all of us, for what we can do. So, keep up the good work, and just take my thanks, and I'm sure the thanks of the board, for everything that even our staff out here does for our community.
I tried to cash it, but they wouldn't let me though.
It's a rubber check.
Yeah, it's a rubber. All right, so does anybody else have anything they'd like to say in this section for board members, anything? Okay, let's move on. Old business. Albion Elementary School certification for water analysis and compliance.
Just want to let you know, when I received a letter in regard to the state notifying us that we were not in compliance, which was the old letter, but when I contacted Cheryl, as you can see in your packet, there are evidence that we are, and the state has verified that, so you can see the evidence that we are in compliance.
Okay,
Just wanted to share that with you.
thank you.
Just a question on that.
Yep.
Did they just not get the letter? Because it looked like the
Somehow I got the letter, then they probably did not.
okay.
So
Because the
when I
test was
asked-
done prior to.
I know.
Okay.
So I was concerned that I didn't know, so when I asked Cheryl, it says, oh no, we've done it, we already actually have, so we just verified, and I asked for verification, and,
Great.
yeah, just want to double check them.
Okay.
State is always not as fast as you think.
Oh, really?
New business. Vote to authorize the superintendent to award a contract for district strategic planning to New England School Development Council, or NESDEC, Phase 1 at $11,850, and an optional Phase 2 at a fixed fee, or $195 plus. The total not to exceed $15,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Neil? Discussion. You received the information about this in your packet, and they will be reaching out to community board. I mean, there's a lot of information that they do to.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. So I read through it, and I don't have any issue with the professional, qualifications of them. It's a lot of money, and for actually things that we can do ourselves. So I feel like we were gonna have, for example, when they're talking about doing a demographic abstract, that's not very difficult to do. And this area isn't so, anyway, the census data is available and publicly free. And that's just putting it together for an analysis. I mean, if you guys want it done, I'll do that for free for the board. The other stuff in regards to the state of the district, it just seems it's a lot of money for just compiling things that we already know. And the stakeholder needs assessment, I think that could be really interesting, but there would have to be a fair amount of us discussing with them about the types of questions they were going to ask and how it went to different stakeholders and how that. It's just a lot of money for me for what I don't think is very much for us. And I think we'd be much better to wait and do what I talked about before, which is have our own board offsite with administrators, identify issues, and then look to hire people in which we have a knowledge gap or an experience gap, and use that money for this, because this will not get us to where we need.
On the page, Kara 7,
Yeah.
so one of the reasons was that we will do some of those, what they call, as you know, internal,
Yeah.
environmental scanning, external. We provide those. So if you notice on 7, we basically do, to save the cost, we do the table of contents introduction, and we do the mission vision statement together. And goal attainment strategies all the way through the bottom is done by us as a district. So there's, the average cost is right around there for the.
No, I understand, but we're doing, my point is that it's just not well spent, it's not money that's well spent, and we can do these things ourselves. I did feel like their expertise.
Yep.
I mean, the guys who were, superintendent of Weston, and these are really great districts that they're coming from,
Yeah.
and I think they've got a lot of deck strength, but this is not what we need. This is work we can do ourselves, and we don't need to pay $11,000 for it. It would much be better to do some of this work ourselves and identify areas of need, because we know that. Like, it's not like it's hidden from us here. We have a pretty good idea of what the areas of need are, and then it'd be better to take that money and invest it in somebody who had particular expertise in that area. So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is, I can't support this, because I don't think that it helps the district, and it's not strategically helping the district. This, to me, just seems like icing and nothing underneath.
John.
I think you'd mentioned this before, the funding.
Yes.
That was,
Performance
where's that coming from?
the grant, yeah, the money that we have from state. And I
Money
indicated
from
not to
the-
exceed 15,000. So it's the money that the state has given us, performance-based funding,
Okay.
that we have to use, because we not want to do that. And also, I put in 15,000 not to exceed, because part of, when we need to move to the next stage of the construction, the pre-design, one of the requirements is you have to have a 10-year enrollment data that's done by independent institutions. So you use this as an opportunity to do independent enrollment data, as well as have, state did exactly what we're talking about, which is they did not hire any institution to do strategic planning. So State of Maine decided to do it together and identify set priorities and objectives. What the issue and problem with that is, in order for you to be independent and to do that, you have to have an independent body that goes out to stakeholders and really independently ask the question where we are, and then come to you with that set, rather than I or anyone that's tied to the district to do it. So historically, every school district in the area has done independent strategic planning rather than locally, because it has a lot of value to it. I think the issue of cost, we try to attain the cost by actually ourselves do a lot of work, which is on page 7. You can see the cost. But, no,
Yeah, so that's a great answer. In the 195 per hour, now, do we have control over that? We could
yeah,
say-
if you want to do it,
Okay, so they could get the first 2 items, 3 items done.
yeah.
And
could stop.
And then stop.
Yeah.
And then I guess what would happen if, the other 2 items weren't done, we would,
The other 2 items, in case if I want to do enrollment studies, do a 10-year study, or do anything in addition to that.
I see.
I think if we can do just the strategic planning, what the product is going to be is you have a collective analysis of what are the influences within our district, what are influences outside. You have everyone within the stakeholders, parents, students, all the communities have really put in their voice in regard to the set priorities. Collectively all get together, and then when we meet, we determine what are the priorities into one language. The final product is going to be goal. The district needs to address the issue of scheduling, or the district needs to address the issue of culture and climate. Objectives. Superintendent by this date must report to the board a strategy that would address that. So there's a series of objectives that goes to address that, and then that becomes a district strategic plan, which we will put on our website. We will do publications to show everyone what our vision and mission. It gives a sense of identity, sense in regard to an independent person doing this. But I think the point she has well taken in regard to the cost. But I think I did the study, and the average is around that, but, we could do
yeah,
some cost saving.
I agree with the third party. I mean, I get what Kara was saying, having us do it. I also think there's good value in, from my experience, other places, is having a third party. I also think the timing of it is good with a
Perfect,
new
yeah.
superintendent. If we did it later on, you could get different outcomes based on what the district has done since your tenure has been, 4 or 5 years, and then, so I think the timing of it is good as well.
I just want to tell you, State approached me, they wanted to know if we could share with them what we're doing. Because they're going to move into doing the independent process.
Meaning what we're doing is.
Because the state of Maine has done its own strategic planning.
Mhm.
So when we had a conversation, they knew we were going to do this with the organization. Basically, I was approached to let them know how we do it. And
So they've done their strategic plan, reaching out to districts.
to us, because
Right.
when we had the building committee,
Yep.
the concern was that their strategic planning is called so-called goals that they've developed. They're not really strategic planning that has the voice of people. So they wanted to do it correctly, and they wanted to know who can do it.
And the timeframe, I feel was probably in here, but what is
The timeframe is about 3 to 4 months. The first layer is to develop what they call a leadership team. That's an administration team that will provide a lot of data to them, that we will do our own, that they don't do. The second layer is really to come up with a strategic planning body, or the fair representation. And then they need to do perhaps a web-based need analysis or face-to-face with each community, teachers, students, and then they collect all the need assessments or the voices, and they compile all into the data. They meet with the leadership team, we go over it to see what we see there collectively and compile into sort of goals and objectives, and then move into the next stage, which is what is the overall goal, mission, and vision that we have. So it's
So
about 3-4 months.
Right, our teachers, administrators will have time to do that during the day, or,
We have to work through that. I
Right.
think it's part of the professional development to really listen to them.
yeah.
This is an opportunity to listen to everyone
Mhm.
independently, in my opinion.
I do. I have some process questions, since typically the board is not involved in approving contracts that the district enters into. So since we are involved at this point, it's presented to us for a vote. Can you talk to us a little bit about who was on the RFP review team? Was there a rubric used for scoring? Who were the other bidders? Who did you talk to for the references?
Well, the NESDEC, I knew the references some of the former superintendents, so I, have worked with the NESDEC in the past. I know the work historically, really a lot of reputation about the organization. There was one person that locally that was recommended or reached out, and one of the first thing I wanted to do was send the RFP to see if she could respond by the deadline. She did not respond. NESDEC was the only one that I responded to. And then knowing their reputation and recommendation I have from someone done this in the past, I felt the organization, what they're proposing is something that I would recommend to you. It's posted at the website. I reached out to folks. Do not a lot of folks be able to do strategic planning. You have to have organizations that do it. But you also have to have organizations that do schools. So, there are a lot of companies that will do strategic planning for a lot of money. But I just want to make sure to pick people that I believe have the talent, organization structure, and really respond to our RFP well, which I believe they did.
And you mentioned that other local districts have engaged with people to do independent strategic planning, and none of those other independent agencies responded to our RFP? Or we didn't solicit responses
Well,
from
the
them?
ones I solicit, this is the only one I have received so far. The ones second one I reached out, she did not respond, so I just waited until deadline. And it's posted at the website, I reached out to to the folks like the way we do that, and try to reach out, and this is the one that responded. I'm sharing with you. You have the clear language in there in regard to who they are and what they're planning to do.
Just a couple more things. In looking at who's on the group, and looking at the districts, having lived in Massachusetts for a very long time, those are exceedingly wealthy districts, who actually the challenges, like I go back to the challenges in our district are right before us. It's money, right? And it's a level of access and literacy on all levels, okay? And we're not addressing that, let alone how we could take on some of these other challenges. So, I agree that I think that this is an important thing to do. I don't feel like the money, I feel like we would just be so much better to think about a different way to spend that money. And also with a group that had worked with, because there's nothing on here about the references about past school districts that they've worked with. And it would help us, it would behoove us hugely to have an understanding about how they have dealt with districts like this one. And because you can have all the goals, you can have a mission and vision that you want, but if it's not curricular, and if we don't have assessment to go with that, then it's just words. It's just absolute words. We're paying $11,000 for words. I can write those words right now. Right? Like, we will be valiant in our achievement for blah, right? That's not, I don't think it's fully baked, so.
If you could, on page 15, those are the references with the phone numbers that you can call.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, it would be good to see, like, have they worked with districts like this? I suspect.
If you call them, I
Yeah.
think those are references of people that have been involved, that were engaged. They give you the phone number of each individual and their background. In regard to the local districts, I'm happy to, figure out which other districts, I know they have done work. They do extensively.
Right. Well, again, every one of these, I'm aware of them, Wilton, Connecticut. That's one of the top earning towns in the United States. Same as our friends like in Westboro. So, I mean, it's just, like they're not working. The only one that I think is interesting is Springfield, Mass. But that's an urban city that's going through a lot of change in regard to, Spanish-speaking and other populations, which isn't really our case right here, right? Like, we have a diversity of immigrants coming here and then a need for that at this moment. So, anyway, that's enough said by me, but.
Yeah, just the person that's going to do it and be a team leader is John Kennedy. He actually received his BA from Villanova and Boston College.
Yeah, no, I read it.
He has experience with curriculum coordination and Title I. So it was more about the experience they had and what they could contribute. But
All those in favor? 6 opposed? 1, 2, 3, 6, 3 3, and abstain. 6-3-1, motion passes. Okay, the next item is a vote to authorize the superintendent to award a contract for district facility heating oil. You got on your page tonight, Sean, do you want to just
Yeah, I
talk about
found
what
my
the,
agenda, it was, yeah,
what the
digging through papers
facilities?
here. Yeah, so we talked about the oil and the diesel and the Finance Facilities Committee on last time. And our thought was, our recommendation was to try to get a more long-term contract, and Cheryl can correct me if I'm speaking incorrectly, since we believe possibly that the oil prices are kind of dipping, that potential to lock in right now would be a good idea. So she got, I think you have in the packets the current prices. That's what this is, right?
Yep.
Current today. So the first one is the heating oil. So it looks like we quoted, Janice did not quote.
No, I contacted him several times and told him it's a substantial amount, and he would not
Right.
do that.
So we have Burke, Dennis Burke, $2.05. Fabian is 2.199, and Snowman's. So can you just explain the average? So if we lock in at 18 months, it's 2.043, right? Like today and tomorrow and 18 months from now.
Right.
So the average is kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, if we go for 2 years, we'll average out to 2.039 a gallon for oil. If we go 18 months, it's 2.004, so save a tiny smidge if we go 2 years, and it's hard to tell what the average price is going to be 2 years down the road.
But I guess just so I understand that, so if we go 24 months today, if we buy oil in January, we'd be paying 2.05.
We're locking in today, if you do it, I think.
Which one are you talking about, Dennis?
Snowman's.
Snowman's? Yes, if we go for 24 months, we'd be paying 2.05 a gallon.
The whole trip, yep, okay. So our recommendation was 18 months. I don't know if you have any input on that.
Well, we had said 18 months might be worth it at the facility committee meeting, so we didn't go too far in advance.
Right.
I think we kind of talked about both ways. You know, you had some input on that too, right?
Yeah. I think, 18 months would get us through this heating season plus next heating season, then contract would run out in June, but we wouldn't be using oil. I think that would give us some more time to get a contract for the next time. I don't know that paying $2.05 for another heating season, it's a crapshoot either way, but I think I like the 18-month option.
And then last week, when we had our meeting, we had an estimate of what it would be, and then it went up 7 cents, and now it's gone back down again.
Yeah.
And today was crazy. I mean, I had to wait till 2:30 to get the numbers because it was jumping all around.
Marcus took quite a hit today.
I don't think it's going to go much lower than that, though.
Right.
I really don't.
And-
Neil actually also had a conversation with somebody at Snowman's.
Yeah, I talked with Scott today, and also, I mean, he mentioned it to you if it would be open to any district employees in their delivery area, that they offer 20 cents off on the cash price. So that's a benefit from Snowman's.
I would suggest Snowman's at the 18 months.
For both oil and diesel.
Well, that's oil. And then the
Is-
diesel.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question? When the quotes came in, were the prices dependent on each other? Like, is Snowman going to give us the 2.043 if we don't go with diesel?
He didn't say anything about that, but even if we went with both of those with him, it still would be lower than skipping around and going with somebody else. I think he'd do well by us too, he's local.
Because it looks like Burke's is 2.1 for diesel, is that,
Yeah.
Yes.
so that's less than our Snowman's price.
What's the quantity? That, how much do we go through on both? Because then we can do the math. We can
Right.
figure out like what the difference is.
And that's what they base the estimates on. I mean, like with Burke, with Dennis Burke, he's like, you tell me how many gallons.
Yeah, so how many gallons do we go through in a year?
In a year, we go through about 70, 80,000 gallons of oil.
Okay, and then how much of the diesel, right?
The diesel, we go through about, about 100,000 a year.
Okay, so it's more than so it seems then like Burke could be, like if you do the math.
Yeah.
It looks like Burke is the better deal for us. I don't even need to take Envisions. But this is the type of Envisions question.
Are we talking about both oil or diesel?
Well, yeah, we don't have to do
Oil.
them together, just to clarify
We
that.
don't,
we
okay,
don't.
that wasn't fair.
No.
So,
All right, so that makes a difference then.
So, I guess right now, maybe we could just do the oil first.
Yes.
So we'll fill in Snowman's for the oil.
So do you want to make the motion, Sean?
Yeah, I make the motion to utilize Snowman's at the rate of 2.043 for the 18 months, which is May 31st, yeah.
Through June, isn't it?
Do I have a second?
Yeah, actually, we will have to modify that. Is it June 12? So we'll have to modify that for 18 months. It'll be June 30th
Oh, okay.
of 2020.
It would start in January.
Yeah,
January.
yeah. So we'll just amend that to June 30, 2020, 18 months.
Okay, what's on the paper? Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Katie?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So it's been moved by Sean, seconded by Katie, that we authorize the contract for Snowman's Oil, utilizing the 18-month quote that they gave us of 2.043 for the duration of 18 months, or from January 2019 to June 30th, 2020. Is there any further discussion?
And we know for sure they're not connected, like you get them separate. That was clear in the bids, they were like, we don't need to get both.
No,
Right.
Okay.
we didn't make it clear, no. I mean, but I'm sure it is, they're both good companies.
Okay, because that, we should probably go back to make sure that, if that's the case, we should definitely,
We'll make sure before we sign the contract.
okay.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Did I count wrong? 1, 2?
that's right.
Okay, 10, 10, 0, 0. Okay, so now the diesel contract, we need a motion on the diesel fuel.
So I make the motion to use Dennis Burke at the rate of
2.1,
2.1
and the same thing
for
June?
18.
through June.
I might still go 2 months.
Let's discuss that. Yep. So I make that motion to
Okay,
for 18.
do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Sean, seconded by Danielle, that we authorize the superintendent to enter into a diesel fuel contract with Dennis Burke at the rate of 2.1 for the duration of 18 months, so from
And
January.
we'll amend that as well to
Yeah,
June.
from January 2019 to the end of June 2020. Any further discussion?
Actually,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
we do, Neil just mentioned to me, so we do want to discuss the duration. Do you have an opinion, any information on what the changes is going to be, 18 to 24 months or 12 months? So we talked mostly in the committee meeting about the oil, so,
That's really low for diesel.
right.
Very low. The town was excited to think that we might be able to get it to 230 this year.
So almost thinking,
It's even-
we could just do the 24.
I think we,
I would, yeah, diesel's now, I definitely go 24.
Yep. So I'd like to
You want to
amend.
amend that?
Yes,
to-
please. Yep.
For 24 months?
24 months,
So it'd be the December 2020.
Yep.
So I've got an amendment to December 31st, 2020. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so Sean amended that and seconded by Danielle. So let's vote on the amendment first.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let's,
No.
okay, nope, do you have discussion?
I just, so do we pay monthly, or do you have to like put a cash, like how does the cash?
No, we lock in and we have a contract, and when they deliver, we pay it.
Okay,
And we keep the contract amount, either for the amount of gallons or the amount of months.
Okay. So, so let's vote first on the amendment to the motion, which is to go the 24 months. All those in favor of 24 months? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, 0, 0. And the original motion to go with Dennis Burke at 2.1. And all those in favor? Okay, 10, 0, 0. Okay, next up, a vote to authorize the superintendent to award the annual facilities roof repair to G&E Roofing in the amount of $4,500 as recommended by the Finance and Facilities Committee. Sean, do you want to discuss that briefly?
yeah, this is just annual facility roof repairs. So we have an inspector that comes in the fall, and next year, they're gonna come a little bit earlier so that we can get the roof repairs done before, I think they're out there today doing it, maybe before winter hits.
That was a different,
Oh, okay.
those are roof drains that were.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Classroom.
So this company, a third-party company comes and inspects the roofs, and then we solicit bids to do the annual repairs. So it's nothing that's a problem or anything leaking or whatever, so. And that's what this is. And we got 3 bids. A couple of them were $17,000, and one was $4,500. And G&E Roofing is good to work with Cheryl, I guess, and
Yeah, they're very good to work with. They've done some pro bono for us before. When we call them, like the leak we have right now, that you saw today, we call them and they're right here, so that we don't have a lot of damage or have problems with mold or anything.
we will be, we've had all facilities have roof leaks, no matter where you are, and the buildings are aging, but we did talk about in the committee meeting, getting the last 3 years roof for the next meeting, and just kind of analyze that and see what's still leaking, and if the job is being done correctly, and maybe we can work with them and a little bit more, and maybe even bring them to a committee meeting or whatever, so, yeah.
Independent roofing did say that our roofs are in excellent condition, that we take very good care of them. And so I'm proud about that.
So can I have a motion?
Is this for roof repair or for roof inspection?
This is repair.
Repair.
The inspection is independent, it was done in the fall.
Well, how do we know what roof repair is gonna be? We're throwing a $4,500
They-
amount out there when that's repairs for the whole year. We don't know what's gonna happen.
Well, it's for right now what needs to be done. The Facilities Committee went over the different things that were on the list from the independent, and then the facilities, in the committee, they had a whole list of what needs to be done and everything. That's
Well,
what
we've got a line item budget for roofing and a big amount, if I remember right. So why is this needed? We already have a line item budget for roofing repairs or whatever goes wrong.
Right, it's more of a procedural question, right? Why is this before us to vote on?
Right.
It's approved in the budget.
It's already there, but this is not needed.
I think we would just, we get in the habit of, if you have any contract to come to you, or about,
That could be excessive.
yeah.
I think as a practice, we just wanted to start, and then you can decide if you don't want to, but the finance facility discuss it. If they like to put that on a vote, we do it. If not,
I'm going to say personally, I don't think that the board should be approving every contract that the district enters into. That we are here for some oversight, but we don't manage the business.
the Yeah, we can check with legal counsel. When it comes with issuing contracts and their finances involved, we can verify with the legal counsel, but the board needs to be involved, so I can verify that.
The school enters into contracts all of the time, though, without the board taking action on them.
They shouldn't. I mean, we can get the legal counsel, but the board, as a policymaker, well, we need to be more involved in knowing what's happening in regard to the board. So if you decide to, this is the information only, don't take a vote, but at least it's good you know. It's gone to the standing committee for discussion. But in regard to whether we should really issue a contract or not for this, I can verify that for you, through the legal counsel.
But this is for repairs that need to be done now.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so do we want a motion on this, or do we want to?
I think we should motion that we don't need to vote on it, because the money's in the line item. This isn't like, you know.
I like the transparency,
I do like the transparency.
I think it's an informational piece instead of
Yeah.
a vote required.
Yeah, I bet,
Okay.
exactly.
I do, I mean, I like the
Your
transparency.
choice. Just say
Okay, it's our
information
choice, we
only.
can put, okay, we'll change it to just information, and.
We actually talked about that anyway, so.
Exactly.
whether
There
we-
was no
We actually
motion
talked about
made
that,
yet.
whether we actually need to do anyway, so.
Right, there's
The
no,
finance committee?
there was no
Yeah.
motion made, so it doesn't need to be amended, because we didn't make the motion, we were discussing. Okay,
it's
so
just-
we'll just make that as an informational piece that we have.
I just want to clarify, I take that from the standing committee. I don't make a decision on this.
Right.
When it comes to you guys, maybe next time I can verify to see if
Oh.
it needs to be voted or not.
Okay, all right.
I'm listening to you as you say it.
Right.
I was doubting that for a second.
I'll
Okay.
verify.
Okay, next up, resignations and retirements.
I just have to make one correction if I may. That should say for Catherine
Yep,
Megan Hutchins, it should say effective 1/1/19.
oh, okay.
There was
Oh, no.
too many 19s,
Okay.
it got messed up.
All right, so we have Jessica Roy, regular education technician 2, effective 12/14. Audrey Martinique, education technician Benton, effective 11/20/18. Melissa Zawins,
Rostowski.
okay, education technician 1 Benton, effective 12/21/18. Catherine Smith, 4th grade teacher Benton, effective 12/21/18. Megan Hutchins, guidance social worker, effective 1/1/19. Retirements, Sandra Mitchell, literacy coach, retirement June 2019. Dennis Boober, reading recovery teacher, retirement June of 19. Patricia Mealy, education technician, retirement 2019, June 19. Marcia Buck, educational technician 2, retirement June of 2019. Linda Dennis, educational technician 2, retirement June 2019. All right, vote to approve the following new hire. Michael Druin, grade 6 through 12 math and gifted and talented teacher. And we have, did we have his resume in our packet?
Yes.
Yes, we did. I thought I saw it. His resume is in your packet, and we have Jordan Turner, 4th grade teacher at Benton. Do you want to?
Basically, we had a search committee, went through a process. We had a one-day fair, job fair, and we thought maybe we'd just take a shot and have a Saturday job fair. We posted the position on Saturday, and Roberta and I were there, and Kathy Gordon also joined us. And we had, some interest, folks come in to apply for positions, and we met Michael Druin, which you can see his resume. He has been teaching here, has significant experience as a 7 to 12, also certified as a gifted and talented program, which is what really excited us. We formed a search committee, and there was a recommendation to move forward to hire Michael Druin, as well as Jordan Turner, because we need to replace for Benton the 4th grade teacher.
Do we need a vote? We don't actually need a vote for information on that one. I think that's.
I do, I said vote recall.
Yeah, you've got,
But
I don't think,
You guys don't like to vote, so just say information only. No, I'm just kidding. I think I have to, right, Ginny? Did you?
we have to have a vote. Okay, so,
I'll make the motion to hire Michael Druin and Jordan Turner.
Second.
All right. Moved by Tim, seconded by Neil. All those in favor? 1, 8, 9, 10. 0, 0. Okay, next up is the,
Just a point of clarification about the teachers though. What I remember, and again, I'm a little bit like kind of off on the remembering, but I thought that after what we did is we voted on them after they completed their, what is the period?
Probationary.
Their probationary period, exactly, not before. So, because now we've just made them district employees without any, right? So that's the way it actually works.
Well,
is
the contract that they have in the union would determine their probationary period.
Right,
So
but we
we're not
didn't
gonna-
used to approve people for hire until they had completed their probation. Dean would bring them to us once they completed the probationary period. And then we would say yes, the board would say yes. That's the way it used to work. So if we're changing it,
He would bring all new hires forward in,
he would, yes, he
I
would
know.
say, but we didn't vote
It was
on it. We only
informational.
voted once it was, right, once they went through the probational period. That's when we voted on it. So if we're changing it, then we should figure out why we're changing it. And if there was a reason, right, to wait until the probationary period.
I stay with the practice, so I
Okay.
think, I did a research to see how it was done before. There was a recommendation, this is how in the past it was done.
Well,
And-
yeah, but that's not what I'm remembering, but that.
But I'm just saying that, I looked at all the past agendas,
Okay.
so this is how it was done, so I took that as the recommendation. I also felt that as, to bring it forward to you before I signed a new hire, and we paid that, I thought that would be I thought it's a reasonable thing to do, you know?
Because I know we did that with coaches. We
I
just.
can check it though.
Yeah, like, I just would like to know if there's
Sure.
nothing.
even coaches is informational.
Right.
It doesn't have,
Doesn't
coaches
have to.
doesn't have to be,
Right.
but it's been past
Past
practice
time,
that
right,
we
past
did it.
practice.
I
But
would-
it
Yeah.
legally doesn't have to be for coaches. But I believe on the teaching end of it, he
I
hires,
nominate to
he
you.
nominates to us,
Yeah.
Right.
and we
approve it.
actually approve the
Right,
hiring. So
right.
that's what this is.
And I thought it was after the probational period.
No, I think
no?
we've always brought it up ahead of time. I believe,
Yeah, we should.
I would,
I-
he's looked at it, so.
Now that everyone's talking about it, I can't truly remember it from here, but I can have been hired a few times in education, and you do vote on it.
Right.
First,
And the others.
Right.
You know, in other districts that I've been hired.
Right, you vote on it.
but I will
so-
double check it
Yeah.
now.
No, it's good.
Okay,
Like I said, my memory's not always what it used to be.
yes.
Please
But
let the student rep.
Yes, that was actually what I was gonna do in the next thing, so that if she wants to leave, so if she,
Yes.
so,
I can do my 100-day report.
so, yeah, what we're gonna do is we'll do our student report. I actually gotta put this on.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Terry.
After citizen input.
Yeah, needs to add, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I
So
wanna,
not to
I'll
sit
do
here
that.
and listen
So,
to it.
yeah,
We can move it to citizens, or after citizen reports.
yeah, we're gonna put it right here, so if you wanna add it to
Okay.
the agenda from now on there, that way we're.
And that's good.
So yes, if we could have our student report, thank you very much for being patient with us.
As you read in the packet that you had gotten from me and Mr. Campbell, 'tis the season for giving, and the outpouring of help that has happened so far within this district has been tremendous throughout the fall and the beginning of this early winter. And it began with Mr. Martin's efforts to procure Thanksgiving baskets for 100 or so families within our communities, and 25 of which are students at Lawrence High School. And the work is still continuing now. And the increase in support is very noticeable, as evident by the number of outside agencies, families, groups, and just other kind citizens that are helping out. Many people have graciously stepped up, as you were talking about earlier, for Christmas for Teens and such. There were groups within the school like GMG, NHS, and I was one of the people who helped out where we were spending a couple of days wrapping and bringing in gifts and responding to letters from the elementary students for Christmas. And it really made the students who were helping out, there was a very strong sense of gratitude for not only what they had, but to be able to be a part of that experience where we we're able to help the less fortunate within the district. Roughly 80 teens, as you said, will benefit from the generosity of many people and will have gifts under their tree that they might not have had otherwise. Other kind acts that are not included in the high school report include the constant efforts of members of our community who keep the shelves stocked in the Bulldog Closet. There are 2 teachers specifically that I personally wanted to thank are Mrs. Hebert and Miss Woods, who are JMG and NHS, and they spend a lot of time outside of school helping with the Bulldog Closet. And whenever an item is low, they can just post on the Facebook page for the Bulldog Closet and immediately get tons of responses. And that page has been spread throughout the state, and it's becoming more of an online presence, and it's getting more of a response, and like it's getting more members of the community involved who might not have known about the Bulldog Closet, and people from other parts of the area are getting interested and wanting to contribute. And we had, the other day when we were doing the Christmas for Teens thing, one woman came in, she brought in a big box of supplies. It was over full. It had like hygiene products, shampoo, like different things that are like basic needs for like, hygiene and such. And she's like, here you go. And then she messaged the teachers for Bulldog Closet, and we're like, I actually don't think that was enough. And she came back with even more. And so like the amount of generosity that's coming from that and helping the students is like incredible. They'll stock it up with blankets that day, and one of the teachers will go back, and a couple hours later the blankets are all gone. Deodorant's flying off the shelves, and it's like helping all of the students like immensely. Like, and we're trying to make it more of like a positive like thing, not so people feel uncomfortable going there and like taking stuff that they need, but making it more like any student can go. There's a bin outside with pencils, pens, and like erasers and stuff, so like you can just stop by and grab stuff. And
That's nice.
trying to make it more of like a welcoming thing, not feeling exclusive and like uncomfortable for students to go themselves. And again, wanted to add emphasis on how quickly people had responded to the request for the guitar. So just a big thank you to all who have donated and continue to give.
Thank you. Good job on that. Thank you. If you want to go home, you can go home.
It's a long day.
And I thank you for staying as long, and you'll be earlier in the agenda next time. We're going to have this superintendent's 100-day report.
As you know, when I started to present my entry plan, one of the key things was that in order for me to get to know the school district and the people as fully possible within this period of time, and examine the key issues in the school system past in order to make sense of how the issues handle and identify the norms which affect how the organization may function in the future, and identify the tasks which needs to be done, and to rank them in order and priority and get a sense of the community. First thing I needed to do is to begin to have series of conversations with and stay entire day at the schools. So the attempt was to stay entirely at the school from the time that the kids get off the bus all the way to the end, have a parent meeting at night, continue to have a conversation with the administration and the teachers, to have opportunity to review all the documents that exist in regard to collective bargaining agreement, budget documents, any financial audits, policy manuals and job descriptions, any kind of evaluation of priorities in the past. And the whole intent is to identify for this 100-day report, there are 3 ways I would say I wanted to identify. One, do we need change? Which means to me you have a system that you come in and adopt a change. Perhaps you adopt a system to bring a better business by implementing human resources, or you adopt a transformation. The difference between a transformation and a change to me was when you have a transformation, you basically have to review and identify and transform the entire school district. Transformation means you have to review and decide how you make decisions, how the parents are communicated, how the parents are, with their fair representation. So there is a difference between a change and transformation. So it is at the 100th day that I can tell you that I have a strong belief that we need to have a transformational change for the district, how we operate and how we make decisions. One of the key things for me was the decision needs to be made from bottom up rather than top to bottom. One of the key things that we started to do was develop a school council where the entire curriculum and the budget and process goes through the council that has a fair representation. To have standing committees with a fair representation where we start having conversations about the issues and have extended time on that. And to review the entire organization structures to see if it's really supporting the student directly and if the cultural climate of the school is impacting teaching and learning. So the transformation that I would suggest that we need is to really review entirely our operation and how we make decisions. Now, for that reason, what I've done in regard to some of the initiative, recommendation initially was, to share with you some thoughts, because after 100 days you get some idea in regard to what you think would be some set priorities. And we talked about developing a comprehensive strategic plan, which I'm very much grateful that you supported that. To start that vision 2020 or 2021, whether it's 2 years or 3 years. To implement a professional development and district-wide. So in your packet, you will see that now we have a professional development plan and standards, and every school has a professional development plan that's attached to that. So you have a comprehensive district-wide professional development plan. To implement the school improvement plan. So every school has identified clearly through the council what are the school improvement plans, what are their goals that they like to reach to the next stage through a fair representation. To implement the universal pre-K program, which we began to implement pre-K at the Clinton, which has impacted significantly. To further investigate the universal pre-K. To investigate how we can operate as a $28 million operation and have adequate business support. Which means to investigate our implementation of perhaps a new position of HR. Because you have to operate as a $28 million operation, you have to have operation that supports that. So to have all these issues, an organization for me to examine to see how best we can operate as a business, how best we can operate as a school and as a learning. To operate professional development for the teachers in a partnership with the Harvard, where we begin to have clusters at every school, what we call professional learning communities, and those clusters will begin to take a course with Harvard, with where they can share resources and meet regularly in regard to the curriculum and conversations about the school and teaching and learning, talk about the kids, to implement PBIS at the elementary schools, positive behavior intervention program, implement respond to intervention at the secondary, to implement teaching for understanding district-wide and support teachers, and to implement technology, expanded technology to those, to the district-wide. So when you have the implementation of these initiatives in this school district, you can begin to see some impacts and changes to the community. So my recommendation is to further examine all grade level configurations. What are the grade levels we have to support? Perhaps examine, because one reason you have strategic planning is it could say that my thought is to do this, but if once you hear everyone in your communities what they think is important, then you can really say that they either confirm or they have a different opinion than you do. So my 100-day report to only tell you that we need to talk and listen to people, to the communities. We need to have open dialogue and conversations. The communication needs to be direct. That's why you see a lot of robocalls from me that people don't understand. I get up at 3:30 in the morning to practice 60 times before one goes out. The direct communication to our principals and myself, and a clear identification of the need that's going to impact the classroom, the change and transformation. So my hope is to continue this examination with the board of how we can have a transformation to moving into a school district that's high performing, where we have an identity. When you talk about the students, everyone's going to talk about, oh, that school has a great program, has a great teachers, has a great supporting structure. And that identity is pretty much well known. To have more efficient operation and to begin to start having a local conversation through the council, through the standing committees, and examine all potential restructuring that we can talk about. True, the strategic planning is an opportunity for us to do it, but in the 100-day report, I think you may have heard that the suggestion was perhaps we need to examine to see we can have the 6th grades move to the junior high school, create a middle school model. But those are initial 100-day report as someone that's been around 100 days and talked to people and listened to people, have reviewed documents, but you will not get a sense until you clearly have a fair representation with people and the opportunity to listen to them. So I'm really excited to have the opportunity to implement strategic planning because that gives us an opportunity to listen to the folks, every single voice. And that was from day one, the attempt to herd those that they like you, don't like you, love you, dislike you. So everyone needs to be heard, and my hope is to be able to collect all that and come to you with a recommendation. So that's my 100-day report, and I hope to be able to come back and do a 200-day report. But
Thank you.
that's a start.
And I'm sure you've all got them in your packet, so if you have other questions you want to reach out to Dr. Naaman later on, we can do that. Let's go moving, huh? Oh, sorry.
The 100-day plan, it notes that there's an administrative and organizational restructuring that's attached. Nothing was attached.
Yeah, because I'm still examining that, so I need to get back to you with that. I don't have the final yet, so I need to work on true details, update job descriptions, and I just need more time. I did also with the business too. I need to collect all the job descriptions in the past and update them, so I just need more time on that.
Okay, and then the comment about moving the 6th grade, I mean, that would likely be the first time that is being discussed.
Just that's the purpose of a 100-day report. Just tell you what is in my thought and my head after 100 days being here. There's nothing but just sharing with you what I have at a 100-day of being here. What are some of the things I'm thinking about? So that's what I'm trying to do. And I keep saying that we need to start a conversation about it.
Okay.
I would like to have a focus on, basically on how we're doing around curricular initiatives. So one of the initiatives that was a huge initiative in the district for forever was around literacy, right, and raising literacy. So I think from a board perspective, because ultimately we're looking at any expenditures that we approve or what we're approving for curriculum, et cetera, we need to get a baseline of understanding where students are at on a bell curve, right? And per the key testing that happens in the district, okay? So, and where there are potential challenges with that, and then direct curricular recommendations, right? And that may be that, in order to achieve X, you need, new personnel or people's jobs may be rewritten. But I think when you talk about the culture and then, impacting teaching and learning, I think we do have to have a curricular assessment to understand essentially like how students are performing, where there are gaps, what people are listening, as you're saying to people, what the recommendations are creatively for those gaps, right? And that, I think, would be a huge understanding, because then if the board just approved to spend $11,000, that mission needs to be reflective of better outcomes for students. And we can't actually approve a mission until we understand a baseline of where students are.
Yep. In January, we got all the results.
Okay.
So our plan is in January to present to you where we are in terms of the academic performance. performances, grade level.
Okay.
So I think that'd be a good time to really
Yeah,
start the
and then
conversation.
on both language, like on literacy and numeracy. So
Yep.
we need to look at both of those, right? And then I'd also like to hear about 21st century literacies. So we have a whole set of like new literacies that are involved in education that are around digital and information and right data. There's like a whole range of new literacies that students are expected to engage in when they get to college or if they're entering into the work world.
Yep.
So we also need to be like, how are we preparing students in the upper grades to embrace some of these
Yep.
literacies, right?
We talked about digital citizenship. I think that's
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, and aspects of that, right? But yes, I would definitely agree, so.
Yep. Thank
Good,
you.
I'm glad, I'll be.
Thank you.
And I like bell curves. I like to see like lots of graphical data.
So we're gonna plan that for January, yeah.
All right, let's move on to the standing committee reports. Education programs. Who's giving? All right.
I think they were fighting
You
against
chi-
this, but I
chime in.
thought
No,
Danielle was.
Before we forget, though, before we go on, I didn't think that we had to vote on the district professional development standards.
I thought, you remember I said I would do it 1 year and it's a live document?
Yeah, but I
So-
didn't take that as a vote, I just took that
You wanna
as.
just leave it as
Yes,
informational?
let's just leave it as
Informational,
informational.
okay.
Because,
All right,
because,
I
yeah.
just put everything in vote.
Yeah.
No, I'm just
We're
kidding.
democracy, but
I'm just
we're
kidding,
careful
but-
democracy.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so.
Yes, so it was great. Dr. Naaman has moved forward with implementing a district gifted and talented program proposal. And I think that the vision that he's put forth is very compelling. It's at all levels, and he's also understanding that that to be gifted and talented doesn't necessarily mean that you're always great, as it were, right? So I like the visual portion that you talked about. I thought about the type of nomination, so Dr. Naaman talked about that parents could nominate, teachers could nominate, right? And there would be a rubric that would be developed that would allow students to flourish, potentially, you know, even when maybe in one area, so say they were flourishing really in like language arts but not in math, they wouldn't be, right, like, oh, you can't because you're not in brain, right? So that there would be a really great way to engage students of all levels. I thought that was great. I look forward to getting more information about that in the education committee, so we applaud that. I think that's really awesome. The virtual high school guidelines, so there was a discussion about expanding. Well, basically the guidelines as they are now, kind of expanding that a little to, and I think you wanted to offer more students?
Yeah,
Yes.
I revised and added to your packet.
Okay.
I called this Superintendent Scholar Program.
Yes, exactly, okay. Sorry, anyway, I forgot.
That's okay.
The Superintendent Scholar Program. So we're gonna rename it, rebrand it, reposition it, and to get more students interested in it, and also to reach the students who, you know, are excelling in a particular area and want to fill out what we're not offering in the curriculum.
Yeah.
So, and it seems like that's a really good program as well. The district professional development standards and plans, we spent a lot of time talking about that. I do want to applaud all of the principals and teachers who have worked on that. They're really robust. I think that they have a lot of promise. They've been customized for each school, so I think that is very reflective of where the schools are at. So, well done. Well done, you. And my only thought about that is, we did talk a little bit about, like, I had a question about money in regards to access, and I'd like to have a further discussion about that, because it would be nice to get potential additional grants. I know some of the stuff that were released, I think there's some opportunity there to open it up a little larger, and that we should have a discussion about
Sure.
creative ways to finance for more of
Yep.
it, so, yeah. And then, they needed a day for professional development, early release, and we said, yeah, and that made my kid really happy. Actually, no, she became very anxious, she was like, well, what about that other day?
And I did the robocall you told me.
I know,
It
yeah.
took me about 2 hours to
We
practice.
teased Dr. Naaman about the robocalls.
And it was nice and clear.
It was?
And I appreciated that.
Because, I mean, I talk too fast sometimes and mix in with my accent. People are like, what is he saying?
Just nod your
All I
head.
know is the school's canceled.
And I also want to recognize Dr. Naaman for working with, if I understood, 2 young gentlemen who are speak Farsi, right? And
Yes,
yes, so I don't know, maybe you want to tell the community about that, because I think that's a true educator
Oh,
right there.
thank you. No, I think we have a lot of talent and interest. Some of the kids that, when I visited their schools, a couple of the students really expressed interest in learning more about Farsi. And not only because it goes in a weird directions, it goes right to left,
Yeah.
but also because they were just excited. So I'm really going to continue that and expand it on that, with that, and do it in other schools too.
He also did offer us cardamom tea with rose water. It was a full cultural extravaganza.
Don't tell them what we're going to do in education committee. Everyone's going to come
I
in.
know, and then he tried
And
to
the
fatten us
pie-
up with
Yeah.
fly us with goodies.
No, yeah, I'm just going to feed you guys so much.
I know,
With-
this is diabetic coma element.
But it was a
Yes,
birthday
yeah.
of your birthday, oh, Lori Lee's birthday,
Yes.
and
It was Tim Albert.
Tim Albert's. So,
All the same day?
And
Same
Laura Lee-
day.
And Laura Lee made a
Got that just right?
amazing whoopie pie tree. It was incredible. If you don't know this about Laura Lee, she's an amazing
She's a
cook
cook.
and baker.
yeah.
And that got scarfed faster than you could be
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
Crisco is my
Wait a
best
minute,
friend."
did we miss out on this?
Yeah,
Wait a
totally
minute,
did.
we're in the wrong meeting.
Wow.
That's why we're meeting in a different building.
That's why they're
Yeah,
going to
they
different
were
buildings,
like
so they don't have anybody
hoarding
else
it.
coming, yeah.
So, yeah, I thought it was very productive.
Danielle, do you have anything to add? You were there?
No, she did a great job, thank you, Cara. Way better than me.
Okay.
You're all very tolerant of my eccentricities.
All right, so let's move on to finance and facilities. Do you want to just kind of highlight anything
Yeah,
else
so
that we talked about?
We didn't have any food. Thought we'd ignore that for next time.
We will next time.
Yeah, really. Yeah, so we went over the oil contract we already talked about. We talked a little bit about diesel. We did create a couple pages of roles, well, it's in your packet, roles and responsibilities roughly of what the committee kind of does. It's a basis of the paragraph that we had already voted on. But then we just put some details to it, and then we'll just kind of the draft, we'll keep updating it. And then we also talked about lean. I'm from the background of lean, and I just got some documents together, and lean's a way to save time, save, I guess, money, and just make things easier in processes. So we talked about that. I gave a quick tutorial on it or whatever. A lot of it's in the packet. So what we're probably going to do is have some of the administrators and people in the school bring forward some stuff, some ideas or things that they're already doing or whatever that's making things easier, and then I can kind of help with talking about it, I guess.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions, anybody has any questions?
We had no idea what lean was until you started talking about
Really?
it.
I made a mistake, didn't I?
No, there was education because
Right.
we all wondered what it was.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. And we also went over what we have for maintenance and replacement schedules, and we're going to be working on developing that and looking at that some more, and seeing what we can do with that through transportation and some other things. I think that was most of what we talked about on that. I just wasn't a whole lot.
Yeah.
Things we're gonna evolve in that. We didn't do much with the cupboard. The inventory, we did talk about having some ideas as far as having traceability as far as the inventory and assets and whatnot. So we're gonna be getting some ideas as far as having people in the school to identify what we have currently, and in the event that we did have to do a replacement or interested in upgrading a certain resource, then we would know exactly what we have for resources, what it would cost, and the type of activities it would take to update them. So that will be evolving some more too, so.
And did you guys talk about using, because like different kind of scanner, tagging systems for tracking it?
Yeah, we did talk about that. I think one time we did that. For one reason, it was probably, I don't know, if we do that still. But yeah, that we did talk about doing
Yeah, I
that.
think those
Yep.
are really great, and there's also some RFID tags that are really easy to get, and like library uses them all the time to put them in books, and they're a great way to track, because they have a really nice radio
Yeah.
frequency tag. They're also in your passports, if people are interested.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we also talked about was, if we left that to just like, just the maintenance people to do that, that it would really take a long time and a lot. So we actually, the suggestion came about to ask the teachers to help, like spend 15 minutes of their professional development day or whatever and you know, start with an inventory in their classrooms. You know, so it's one of those type of things that we talked about, a way to basically keep it lean too, by having, you know, help with that rather than just having custodians or, you know, maintenance people do that. So it was just another, and not only that, teachers know what's theirs and what's belongs to the school too. So it was something that we kind of were throwing around in there, but I thought it was a productive meeting, and Sean's doing a great job running the meeting and doing everything, so it's awesome. All set?
I'm good, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
let's move on to policy and planning. Roberta, are you gonna handle this one?
I'd be happy to. I'm
Okay.
just standing in, and we too did not have any refreshments, and I think we met the longest until
No,
after.
we
Oh,
were
all right.
still beat you.
Our next, we'll have our subsequent meetings in the junior high library, and I think your Dr. Naaman's going to publish that a little more comfortable environment.
They're giving you the food.
That's right. We'll have comfortable
We're gonna
seats
have
at
that
least. But I guess initially the policies that were listed on the agenda for this time came out of the first meeting convened. I was not able to be there, and they were requests to review some of these, but Dr. Naaman suggested that we have some order of operations, I guess, to reviewing instead of hopping all over. There are 174 policies currently, but if you do adopt through the second reading the child sexual abuse and prevention policy, that's an added policy, so there'll be 175. And the committee is looking to maybe consolidate some of them, and perhaps some of them are more rules that might appear in handbooks versus policy, but that's for the committee to work through. So we went through that discussion. And again, as I mentioned, you have a couple of second votes up here that you've already had a conversation about the changes. We did add an attached DOE guide for the implementation of the child sexual abuse prevention and response policy. We are in the midst of implementing that. Our teaching faculty and educational technicians have been trained, and that came about through key staff members attending the DOE training, so they're certified trainers, if you will. It had to be a 1-hour program. And our next group are the support services, which also are required to be trained. And the other part of the statute relates to curriculum that is required K through 5. And in that guide, implementation guide, there are suggestions about, I guess, key components and key features, but the DOE is not endorsing any particular program. And we also have identified key staff in the elementary grades to attend those DOE trainings for curriculum, and that will not be available to us until January. So we're in the process as the DOE is rolling that out, but we have a plan to implement it because it's a statutory requirement. In regard to the wellness policy, again, second reading will be coming up. We are forming a district team with representation from the buildings and a variety of key staff to include teachers and counselors, school nurse, the director of food services. We'll be meeting in January to talk about our district plan for implementation, which is another requirement. As far as the policies coming up for a vote, bullying and cyberbullying in schools, we did not change any of the language, but attached are some forms that might look familiar to you because we shared them sometime in June or May meeting last year. But what the DOE requires is that we publish these, and Dr. Neiman has, as he's updating the website, is going to have a drop down on the district banner page, what a person might do, the procedure to report bullying, and that could be anyone, student, staff, parent. So it is available, the DOE requires it, and in fact the DOE is asking for our URLs for all of these forms. We already make these reports, and if you just flip through, there's a recommended procedure, so it's very clear when someone makes a report of bullying, what our action steps are, what we're required to do. But if you flip to, there's a complaint form, a responding form, and a remediation form. And particularly on the remediation form, if you look at that, all that language comes from, there's a module in the state data, it's NEO, and quarterly I report substantiated incidents of bullying. And not only do they want to know when it occurred, but the state wants to know what we did about it, how we interceded and remediated. And if you look through there, not all of these consequences, if you will, are punitive. In fact, the intention is to change the behavior and educate as much as anything else, from anything to anger management, counseling, the discipline, there's exclusion from school, but there's some internal alternative discipline. So just so it's very clear on how we're responding when something like this comes forth. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. So those will be forms on our banner page coming up. Student drug and alcohol and tobacco use, as well as student substance abuse K-12. They're very dense. And as you note here, for information only, I think we're going to look at the possibility of combining those two policies. And again, there's the misconduct infraction, but it's also what are we doing to support students when this behavior is occurring, and how can we help them? So that's a piece. Tobacco use by students. We talked about that. We're not changing anything, and actually a comment had come up about the age and changing. Smoking, tobacco use is prohibited on school grounds, period, by anyone of any age. So it's kind of a non-issue that it's for students, but that is ready to go forth without change. Rules for student use of cellular telephones and other electronic devices, and I think we decided to, I tried to strike out the changes so you could see what we've discussed.
Yeah, I think Jenny would.
But I think we've stricken out words like BlackBerry and the like, just trying to update some of the language. I don't have it here in front of me.
Because I think last time you were saying that you didn't know that. So
Exactly.
what we're going to do from now on, we're going to do
Yes.
across.
That was much more helpful.
Okay, so on that very first page, just to update and bring it into up to speed. And then that teachers may authorize students to use such a personal electronic device for a specific purpose, because people, not just students, they're very dependent, they do searches, they're using it as a tool to access information. So it's not always communicating through social media. There are productive uses, and we want teachers to have that latitude to make those calls. The other language is just boilerplate language. And homework. That was another topic that was discussed, and it's, appreciating having, it's a well-represented committee, and there were several teachers there that I think that brought that issue forth of just trying to review our homework policy. We had some good discussion about it, and in the end, I believe we decided to leave it as it is. So that's the update on what we discussed.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a couple of votes on policies that have been for the second readings, and then there's a couple for first readings. So the first one is a vote to approve the child sexual abuse prevention and response policy. And this is the second reading. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Sean? Second. Kara? Any further discussion on that one? All those in favor? 10, 0, 0. And now we need a motion to approve the student wellness policy. This is a second reading. Motion?
I make a motion on that.
Sean and Kara. Any discussion? All those in favor? 10, 0, 0. Next one would be the bullying and cyberbullying in schools. This is code JICK. This is the first reading. I need a motion to accept that policy.
Make a motion?
Sean, Kara? Any discussion? Jenny?
Can I just make a suggestion? The procedure does mention the forms, and it mentions them with an acronym, the JIC-E1 or E2 or E3, but that number's not on the form anywhere.
No, we're required to make the forms publicly accessible. You can choose to put the forms in policy or leave them and just meet the state requirement, because then you may be in the business of revising more frequently, but it's not required.
Okay.
We're just,
My only other thought is, I know Belfast has done some interesting stuff with restorative justice, and I really feel like if you want to have a culture of climate, that is a great place to start, thinking about that and thinking about ways to have a meaningful dialogue between those that, right, have between conflict, right, and in a way that allows those whose behavior you would want to modify to kind of engage in that in a really meaningful thing. I find the models to be very compelling, and they did a huge case study out in Denver on it, and it's amazing.
I'm
So-
familiar with it, yes.
Yeah, so I just like, I don't want to get in the policy and planning zone, but I do think our district would be well served by
Yeah.
that.
I agree with you, because we're gonna work on that.
Yeah,
we would
so
have been
just as a
talking.
future.
Yep. I agree with you on that.
Any further
I had one more question. It was actually it's under the responding and investigation piece. It just has a blank space for X amount of days. Is that because the policy just is left like that, or it says, ensure that all reports of alleged bullying are investigated and responded to promptly or within X amount of days? I just didn't know why it was blank.
And the responding form.
Oh, on page 3 of 4?
Oh, 3 of 4. Oh, no, it's not in the actual forms, it's,
On the
It's under the
procedure.
bullying and administrative procedures.
yeah. I was just wondering if there's supposed to be an X amount of days. You see?
Or, I guess, when or materializes, it's immediate. I would say immediately, as in the day you've received the report, principals are probably initiating an investigation. This is nothing that is left to we didn't discuss that particular
Okay.
language, but it didn't specify, so there's an option instead of getting
Okay.
pinned down.
No,
I
I
would
was
say
just-
day one, that there is something initiated once the report is received. I would not suggest that it be any more than, a 24, period,
Okay.
that some contact is made.
Any more discussion? Okay. All those in favor? 10-0-0. Okay, so the next one is the tobacco use by students, and this is basically just an updated version of the current form. So I just need a motion, first reading of code JFCG, the tobacco use by students.
So moved.
Moved by Tim,
Second.
seconded by Kara. Any discussion? All those in favor? 10-0-0. Next one is the rules for student use of cellular telephones and other electronic devices. It's code JFCK-R. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Moved by Sean, seconded by Neil. Any discussion?
Yeah,
Yeah.
has it ever been talked about as far as the cell phone in the classroom, taking it out completely? And or, I know this is probably a
No,
common
it's-
question, but, or I guess a more formal question is, do teachers currently, struggle with that aptitude?
There is a struggle with that because the teacher's discretion is to tell the kids they cannot use it. And if they have any assignments for them to use, to have the cell phone on the particular projects, they could. But, in the past, what I had done, I think the discussion for me was in the past, I had a basket where the kids, when they enter, have to drop it in. Our practice is different than our policy. I think it's something we can bring it back and see what we do.
Well, just to clarify, like you said,
Yeah.
so as a teacher, I could say, the policy says that so-and-so, the whole class can have the phone, right?
discretion.
But today, for the next week, a whole class cannot have,
Yeah, they
Right.
cannot have-
That is what, on the first page B, where we have a strikeout, teachers may authorize, but it's to be off during instructional time. Students can use their phone during passing periods, which there are a few more minutes in the senior high than there are in the junior high by design, but, say at lunch, they're able to use it, but in the classroom, it is with the teacher's permission, and we kind of loosened up the language a little bit, so it doesn't seem so.
We
rigid.
struggled with this
Yeah.
a few years
Yep.
ago as
Yep.
far as spending a lot of time dealing with this. Kara was here then.
Shelley and I locked horns on this
Yeah,
one immediately.
we,
There was
we
a little like fur flying on
Yeah,
that
there was a struggle with this policy a few years ago, and I think this was kind of the compromise that we came up with at the time, that we allow the teachers to make the decision. And, being able to, but I do remember it being a struggle, back a few years ago as to what the best way, because kids wanted to be able to use it between classes, and, because at one point it was no cell phone in the school at any, and that was, so, yeah, it's been gone round and round a few times on that, so.
Not in this policy though, and I haven't looked through their policies in a while, but, so, students are protected by FERPA and health records by HIPAA. However, the law, there's no privacy law, right? So I think, there's no, the way our country deals with privacy is very secular, right? I mean, it's very kind of set up in a couple different ways. But anyway, what I'm more interested in a future discussion about is, we correctly identified that students should not be using any type of device for pictures in locker rooms. Because what the law states is around basically video cameraing, that's what I'm bringing up. Because the law is pretty interesting about this. In areas where you would not have an expectation, they're public places, and you would not have an expectation of privacy, then there is support for taking a video. Where you have an expectation of privacy, i.e. the bathroom, whatever, then it is, there is plenty of legal precedents where that becomes problematic and people receive due course punishment. So now that video is a total thing, in a way when we started talking about this, it didn't have the same ramifications, and I think that needs to go back to kind of really figure out, because, what if the instance where a student is recording a teacher during an episode? Oh, yeah. So, and that, I'm sure it's already happening, we're just not aware of it. And sort of what are our policies, both in regards to what our lawyers say, but what we're gonna say with that as well. So I think there's lots of kind of questions around issues of, right.
Maybe we can ask the policy committee to just kind of discuss that, in the next couple of months to.
Is that what we should get in front of?
Well, that would be an unauthorized use unless the teacher's given permission for that student to use the phone.
Yeah, but legally, but that's our policy, but isn't that, if that's not the precedent of the law, then we need to figure out how to work with that. That makes sense. Because I don't know what the law states about public schools in regards to that.
Tim?
I've seen a lot of school districts that have actual cell phone boxes that they'll put at the beginning of the classroom. I don't think, cell phones are a distraction, and even teachers. I mean, many teachers will use their cell
even
phone
board
during
members.
classroom. Or board members, yes, absolutely. There's plenty of time where a student, lunchtime, study halls, they'll have access to their phones. I think it's disruptive in a classroom setting especially double blocks. We can't keep their attention span for 30 minutes, and we expect to do it for 90. I'd like to see a rule where there's no cell phone use. Substitute teachers are a big problem, and students. It just shouldn't happen. Every teacher's got a planning period. They have time to get on their cell phones. I've got employees, it's my biggest pet peeve and problem, is a cell phone. So I think if we want to improve our learning productivity, then let's make a classroom where they just don't exist.
So do you think that we ought to send this back to policy to
Yes.
discuss it further?
Yes.
Sorry, guys. So what we will do is I'll need a motion to table this issue until it comes back.
I mean, it comes down to security as well. How many times we've been in a lockdown and
Yeah, and it's gone.
somebody's texting,
Yeah, yeah.
okay? I mean, there could be a life or death situation. If we get in the habit of phone in the box, I'm the teacher, look, my phone's in the box, and they have access to it, it should be easy.
All right, let's send that back to the policy committee to discuss further.
Sure. So moved.
Okay, so we will do that. So basically what I need, because we have a motion on the table, I either need to rescind the motion or just to table this until further discussion.
I can rescind.
You want to rescind your
Definitely,
motion
yeah.
and we'll send it back? And, okay, Neil?
Yes.
Okay, so, so that motion is rescinded, we're gonna just send that back to, policy to discuss further.
Return to sender.
Thank you. Next up is the first reading of homework, code IKB. Can I get a motion?
Well, are we supposed to be voting? It doesn't say.
We're voting on the homework policy IKB, first reading. So.
Yeah, it doesn't say vote, that's why I'm asking.
Oh, it's first reading.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I
Oh,
should have said
That's
that.
fine, it's first reading, so so we will be voting on the homework policy.
By
So,
then,
it's basically an update, there's really nothing that's been changed on it, it's just an update of the policy, that it's been reviewed. Huh?
I make a motion.
Okay, Danielle moves,
Second.
and seconded by Neil. Discussion?
I think there should be a time limit. Every student is different. And you're gonna have some students that struggle. I don't wanna see a student go home, maybe the homework takes me 5 minutes. Might take Danielle 3 hours. It's gonna interrupt. There are, I'm just, okay, sorry. I'll be the 3 hours, you be the 5 minutes. but-
No, it's good. It's good.
But my point is, everyone is different. Okay, so when we assign a homework topic, if I don't understand it, I gotta go ask mom and dad. Mom and dad gotta go back and remember 30 years ago, what can I help? I just think we need some timeline, some time adjustments on this. The student put in so much time, maybe mom and dad sign a form. We tried 45 minutes, an hour, they didn't get it, we send it back. But we need help. Because I don't want students to get discouraged. When a student gets discouraged, they go backwards. And we all have, we've got kids that happens to, and some of this happened to us. So I think it needs to be reasonable. I don't think kids should have any more homework than a teacher wants for homework outside a classroom themselves. So I just think a reasonable time limit, and I don't have any suggestions on time.
I think that becomes really difficult in the high schools because you can say, I don't think a kid should have more than an hour of homework, so teacher A, who teaches history, says, okay, an hour for history, and then teacher B, who teaches English, says, all right, an hour for English, and how are we breaking up who gets how many hours, you know? And again, this is another thing as we think about, and we talk about the 7 or 8 period days, is 8 periods a day is something that is going to come up, is because right now you're getting homework for 4 periods that you have for 90 minutes, where usually some time to work on your assignments is incorporated. You go to 45-minute classes and you have 7 of them. Everyone, you know, I'm a teacher too, I think that my subject is very important and that should be what's worked on outside of school. Well, so doesn't the other 8 teachers, you know, everyone thinks that, and I think that this will be something, if we do ever change to the 8 or 9 periods a day, we need to really evaluate, because that is that is one of the biggest hangups I had found with students is that they're suddenly getting slammed because everybody wants their stuff and suddenly their time is being cut short or.
Katie, if we're in a double block, the whole initiative for double block was to get double content.
Right.
So if we're not gonna teach the double content because we wanna give help in the classroom so they can get started on their homework, then we're not getting as far through our curriculum that we should get through, and therefore that's why our score is probably not where they should be. I just think it needs to be a reasonable amount of time. If I got a 45-minute class, you know what your planning period is for today, what you want to get to tomorrow, and, maybe.
Right, I'm
maybe
just saying
3
there's
months
8 other
in.
people who feel the same way.
I understand. I think it just needs to be a reasonable amount of time. I mean, it could be 6 classes at 15 minutes
Although,
apiece.
Tim, like in pedagogy, the purpose of doing homework is to increase familiarity with the content and to practice a particular skill. So I think it's actually really good when the student starts the homework in class because then they can have clarifying questions. I also think what is often missing from homework and is rubrics, right? Because then students I see the navigation of it, and that's not always possible. Like in a math homework, it's pretty clear in the certain ways that's set up. There are other things where, kids may not be remembering, and that's why I definitely feel like a rubric is helpful. I think when you go back to curriculum and you look at what is the purpose of the assignment that was given, right? And how much time it takes to require, that's part of the factor in figuring it out, right? So when I do my own course, I'm like, yep, I know how much time I think this is gonna take an average student to do it, and I'm gonna assume that I built that into my time period, right? To say, yep, they probably need a week and a half to be able to do this, and here's the scaffolding you're gonna need to be able to do it, and the resources you're gonna need to do. And that should be reflective in teachers' planning books, right? Like, that they should, I'm assuming that's part of what goes into it. So maybe not, I don't know, I don't think high school, so not, or middle school or elementary school. But you get my point. So I think, I'm gonna agree with Katie, I think that it's really hard to do the time, but I do think there are other things that students would really benefit of as best practices that teachers could follow. That would really make the homework then serve its purpose.
Okay,
Yeah, there we go.
yep, we're kind of getting off the subject a little bit here as far as the policy goes. So let's, if there's any further discussion on that, let's move on to a vote. If we want to discuss further on making changes to that later, we can always send it back to the policy committee later on to do something with that.
To do more homework.
But at this point, it's an update of the policy, so if, call for a vote. All those in favor of the update on the policy? 8 opposed, 1, 2, 8, 8, 2, 0. Okay. So next up is the superintendent's report.
Yep, just wanted to make sure we go over the culture climate report, if I may. Albion?
We've had some really wonderful activities in Albion to get ready for our upcoming holiday, Fairfield too. A great assembly yesterday where the a cappella group and the chorus sang for us. And then we started a new little tradition where we wrote our wishes for the world, the community, and for our neighbors inside of, to put inside of a little plastic ornament. So we have a new wish tree in our hallway at school. The PTA annual holiday dinner took place last weekend with Santa. That was a lot of fun. Each of the classes developed a theme basket, like a chocolate theme or car wash theme, and they raffle it off Chinese auction style. And we had a lot of great, cute little kindergarten things. They have a traditional gingerbread house making. Kindergarten and first grade do the Polar Express in the hallway, pretending it's like you're on the train. The Albion Lions Club are getting ready to set up their Santa-style workshop in our gym. Right after we dismiss, they get ready to wrap all the presents for the students pre-K through 12 from the town of Albion that they deliver, for the Christmas break. The 5th grade was featured in your newsletter this month for their work on their digital portfolio, and perhaps we'll be able to show you that later on this year. The students have been doing STEAM activities using candy canes, and they're also working with the local Humane Society, and in January doing a little service project for them. At Fairfield Primary, the state board visit took place on the 12th, and I'd like to thank all the different departments to help us pull off a wonderful visit. Junior high food service, a special thanks to the maintenance department for the special setup, the technology department, Zach Gushing, and Mr. Fields for graciously helping me out in acquiring Nathaniel's great talents for the day. And then we had a real nice surprise. In October, the kindergarten teachers had their annual Trash Monster event, and we gave the parents a feedback form and asked them, well, what they thought of the event and if they were interested in any others. And they asked us for a Christmas event, which made us very happy. So this week we had the students have a Christmas concert. 3 of the kindergarten classes performed on the stage at Fairfield Primary, and then they took their parents downstairs and created a craft that the art teacher helped them with and had a snack. And then the next 3 groups met on the stage. We had a little bit of a traffic jam, but everybody had a great time. The Polar Express is a big deal for the kindergartners. Last week, during their library time, they got their golden ticket to go to the event at the Williamson Center, which will be tomorrow. We also had our annual reindeer visit, and then Elsie Bates as part of the social studies curriculum. Pre-K had parent conferences on December 3rd to review student progress. And they looked at, with each parent, each child's personal goal, which was based on the initial home visit they had with families at the beginning of the year. Pre-K also held a family event. Parents were invited to the school for breakfast, and then they all went together to the Williamson for a snowy day. So we've had a lot of fun activities at both schools, and we're ready for the holiday break. So, and Merry Christmas to you all. Thank you.
Benton?
I'd like to kind of preface my presentation. In the back, I talk about the M.A.A results. We're going to get into that in more detail at our next meeting. And reference, the sheet does not actually impact, but I'm excited to talk about M.A.A and the data, so we'll get that later. But some highlights, Sean was talking about kind of what we're doing to lean up a little bit. And our school council developed, and this came from some community initiative that we wanted to create. We call it like a stewardship committee. And basically the purpose is to see where we stand, Benton. And what we've noticed first is kind of the use of paper and the amount of flyers. You know, we have 630 students. We're sending home, my monthly newsletter. We also send a variety of newsletters throughout the week. And that's a lot of money that we spend in ink, and toner and paper. So we developed, so the committee came together and we came up with a plan for a Facebook page and to get this out digitally. We're looking at some other methods. We created basically an opt-in form or an opt-out form. I guess it depends on which way you look at it. If they want to continue to receive the paper packets, they just let us know. So this actually, the BV that I just finished today, we're sending out paper copies to everybody. We'll be the last one to everybody, and those that opted in. We have many families that have multiple children in our school, so instead of sending, say, 5 packets to 5 children, they may request only 1. So we're excited to see what that does for cost savings for Benton and the district, and we'll see kind of what's next, for that kind of ad hoc committee that we've formed. Attendance has been a huge priority for me. We want to continue to push for that 97% average daily attendance. We're also looking at chronic absenteeism rate. And we have a committee that we meet, a small group of ours, Ms. Blaze, myself, guidance counselors, and working with Deputy Day. Really anybody that's kind of involved with each student team, we look at by the numbers. We have a list of about 2.5 pages of students. Anybody that really has over 3 days absences, well, I shouldn't say 5 days absences, we target and we talk about them individually, and then we work with the teachers to make sure that we're making contact with the parents, that we have an instructional plan in place, and that that we're making contact. I mean, just this past week, I was able to do 5 home visits, basically target at truancy issues, and we're seeing improvements. So I'd like to show the data. Last month, we jumped up to 97%. So I was really excited, where we've been kind of stuck in 94 to 95%. But the sad news is that this month, in the first couple weeks of December, we're back to like 94.5%. So we're going to be looking at that and trying to find the trends and continue to support families. We are doing a lot to prepare for the MEAs. We have analyzed the data at the school level, and we have a school-based committee to come up with a plan, a professional development plan, and kind of an action plan for teachers, each grade level, to get ready for the test coming up in the spring. So we're rolling that out. I can provide more detail on that later. Next, I want to talk about Pause for a Cause. I'm really proud of 4 girls, if you have that in front of you, Mira Flood, Alyssa Welch, Paige Goodwin, and Abby Taylor. They're 6th graders that started an initiative to raise money for the Humane Society. And we are at $3,000 right now. So we're going to be going over there after the new year and delivering the check. So definitely want to recognize those girls. They've been kind of working. They came to me and presented their whole plan to me. And I approved it. I gave them some feedback. I made sure they could coordinate with the teachers. And it's been incredible. So very, very proud of that. And I think that will have some other items. And, as I was putting this together, I was so excited because there's so many great things going this time of year. So I'm going to stop there and add it to next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gordon is not here, Kathy, today, but can I do Lawrence Junior High School?
Yeah. So just to give a few highlights of our culture at the Climate Report. The first page we have, again, focusing on attendance, we have our guidance counselors, Mrs. Dooley and Mrs. Person, put out a challenge for the students to make an attendance awareness poster. So the students went right at it and they made a number of posters, and they're all very good. But there were a couple that stood out more than the others. So they had kind of an acknowledgement of that. They're also bringing those posters to a Attendance Matters meeting, which is a kind of statewide meeting on attendance. So maybe enter in a contest and see if it's posted on their website. So they're very excited about that. The robotics team has had a couple of competitions, the regional and the state. And state competition, they placed first in teamwork, which is a great accomplishment. Grace's professionalism, inspiration, and teamwork are those kind of parts of the teamwork rubric. Solid 4 all across the boards. So you can see the pictures there. They're doing a great job. They've done a great job. They practiced the presentations in front of the homerooms. I got to watch one, talk to them about what they've done well, maybe what they could work on. So the time, they were over by like 4 seconds, so what can they do to adjust to get under that time? So they did a very good job in representing Lawrence Junior High. Our homerooms have been busy with service learning projects, different, adopting a family through the Salvation Army, or breast cancer awareness, a plethora of things that they've been working on just to help people in the community, not just locally, but nationally and globally. Going on to the 49ers committee, this is kind of a committee where we celebrate those who have made the honor roll. So Mrs. Fournier leads that, and for the first quarter they had a kind of a breakout session where some students would go into the gym when they'd play games in the gym, and some would come up here to the multi-purpose room where they'd have board games, and they'd kind of swap out 7th and 8th grade. So just another way to recognize those that are maybe made the honor roll. Paint night was held December 7th after it being rescheduled due to a storm day. Mrs. Laporte and her students, her advanced art students, as a way to earn money. And it's also a way to engage the community in painting. They painted a a lighthouse seat, which I have one down my office. But they did very well. About 32 people were there and took home paintings from that night. And our socialized classes have been working hard. Projects about U.S. Reconstruction after the Civil War. So they've been learning a lot about that. And one thing that wasn't on here is this week has been our Spirit Week of the junior high. It's been very well received. We've had Ugly Sweater Day. Today was, Bulldog Pride Day. What's tomorrow is?
Holiday Day.
Yeah,
Holiday
Holiday Day.
colors.
We've had door decorating, and they've been very, enthused with that. It's been a very well received time. So, thank you.
Thank you. High school?
So the only thing I would add to what Ms. Hersey already shared was the experience that both Mr. Alley and Mr. Jones' U.S. History kids had together. They had some great questions, and his responses kept them totally focused on him. And as he talked about his time, I happened to be in there, when he was talking about his time during service, and he let the emotions come out. The camaraderie between the people he served with, and how difficult it was to serve during that time. So the students really came away with a good understanding of what it was like to be in the
Mark,
military.
could you explain
Sure, Mr. Alley.
who Mr. Alley is?
Mr. Alley, I believe it was in Albion, when we were in
Yes.
Albion, we recognized him as one of our citizens by Dr. Neiman, and he's in the process of getting his high school diploma, and one of the credits he needed was in history, and Dr. Neiman suggested that he do some work with some students, and it just so happened Mr. Jones needed somebody to come in and help his class out, because a lot of his students were struggling to find an eligible to work with. So it was a match made in heaven. So Mr. Alley's going to get towards his high school diploma closer, and our students had the opportunity to hear what it was like for the 1960s and being in the military and be able to do their major paper. The other thing I would say, winter sports is well underway, okay? And Dave Packard has done an awesome job, because it is tough to juggle all the sports teams we have when we have two gyms in the facility. But, at least at the high school level, I don't know about this young man, but at the high school level, there has been no concerns raised about all the sharing that we've had to do at the high school for all the basketball teams in the school.
So it's been very smooth in that way. Just passing that job.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to also mention in my report that high school student Emily Bartley has been accepted to All Eastern Music Festival in April. She was chosen from a pool of 1,600 students. Emily will be singing in the mixed choir as one of the main representatives. And that is my report.
Thank you. All right. Under other business, just to clarify, we're not extending Dr. Neiman's contract or anything like that over what we did in August. What we are doing here is just, it's a state requirement that we do it in December. There has to be a form sent into the state, so this is what that is. So it's just approving the current contract that we already have. We actually have to have another official vote for the state, and it's required every December to do that. So that's all this is. So it's not anything that, anything that, are looking at doing any extension or anything. It's just doing it for a state requirement. So I just need a motion.
So moved.
Second. Okay, moved by Tim, seconded by Kara. Discussion? All those in favor? 10, 0, 0. We are not having an executive session tonight, so.
Hallelujah, not on the good side.
I said, put
I
that
have something.
reason on my.
Yes, and any other business,
I have
John?
one thing, our finance and facilities, we're gonna go 6:30
Okay.
on the next
The next
meeting.
one?
We're gonna try 6:30, so you'll apply.
Okay, yeah, okay, so I need a.
Motion adjourned.
Motion, second.
Tara,
All right,
has this
been
been
moved
sent
and
in?
seconded, all those in favor?
Thank you.
Yes.
All right,